It is Friday, February 22nd of the year 1946, 11:45 p.m. in the town of Texarkana, Texas and Arkansas. A young man named Jimmy Hollis went to the local Lover's Lane, about 100 yards away from Highway 67 in Texas, with his girlfriend, Mary Larry. They parked in a place that was secluded, but 10 minutes later, a man in a white cloth mask appeared. The man attacked the duo, fracturing Hollis's skull and doing more unspeakable things to Larry. However, both were able to escape and alerted Bowie County, Texas Sheriff Bill Presley, who investigated the scene. Both spent time in the hospital recovering from the attack. On the morning of March 24th, Richard Griffin, 29, and his 17-year-old girlfriend, Polly Moore, were found dead by a passing driver in the Lover's Lane, 100 yards south of Highway 67 in Texas, via gunshot to the back of the head. In response to this, police launched an investigation throughout Texarkana, with both county sheriff's offices, the Texas Rangers, and even the FBI being involved. Officials did not initially connect the murder to the first attack, and the Griffin-Moore murders were initially thought of as an isolated event. But what came next would prove this to be a serial killer case. Around 1:30 a.m. on the morning of Sunday, April 14th, 17-year-old Paul Martin picked up 15-year-old Betty Jo Booker from a performance at the local VFW club. Martin's body was found later that morning at 6:30 a.m., lying on his side on the side of North Park Road. He had been shot 4 times. A search party formed, finding Booker's body at 11:30 a.m., 2 miles from Martin's body. She had been shot twice. The weapon used was determined by police to be a .32 Colt pistol, the same weapon used in the first murders. Investigators found Martin's car a mile and a half in the other direction from Booker's body, in Spring Lake Park. The keys were still in the ignition. Investigators began questioning any who knew the victims, and suspects were questioned from as far as 100 miles away. An April 16th edition of the Texarkana Daily News labeled the killer the Phantom Slayer. Curfews were set throughout town, and residents were advised to stay inside at night. Texas Ranger Captain Manuel Gonzalez even recruited teenagers to sit in parked cars as decoys while police waited nearby, but nothing came of this. On April 18th, Gonzalez held a press conference where he dispelled the rumor that the Phantom had been caught. On May 3rd, before 9 p.m., 37-year-old Virgil Starks and his wife Katie were in their home on a 500-acre farm near Highway 67 in Arkansas, about 10 miles northeast of Texarkana. Virgil was sitting in an armchair, reading a newspaper when he was shot twice in the back of the head through a closed window. Hearing the glass break, Katie walked into the room to find her husband dead. She tried twice to call the police, but was shot in the face from the same window. She tried to find her pistol, but was blinded by blood, and hearing the Phantom at the back door, Katie ran out the front to a neighbor's house, who, while armed, got help from other neighbors and took Katie to the hospital. Following the Starks murder, mass hysteria took the town. People in town used to not even lock their doors, but now they were fortifying their houses, and the entire town was arming itself. Officers from throughout the region were called into Texarkana to assist in tracking the Phantom Slayer, and Highway 67 was blockaded. While the initial bounty on the Phantom Slayer was $500, following the Starks murder, it had risen to $7,000 and would surpass $10,000 within 10 days. Due to so many residents being armed and nervous, Texarkana became dangerous. When making house calls, police turned their sirens on, stood in front of their headlights, and announced loudly there were police officers in order to avoid being shot. The fear even spread to other towns like Lufkin, Texas, and Magnolia, Arkansas, where noticeable spikes in sales of guns and locks can be noted. While over 400 were apprehended as suspects, the identity of the Phantom Slayer was never determined, and the case remains unsolved. The mass hysteria over the murders slowly faded as no new murders occurred. In 1976, the case was immortalized in the cult classic movie, The Town That Dreaded Sundown. However, the town of Texarkana had forever been changed by the events of 1946, and a psychological scar was left on the residents of the town. Happy Halloween.